Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome into another edition of Slo Ur Roll. I am Dominic Lorenzano alongside Jesse Caulfield.
Hey.
And we got a geeky episode for you. A little nerdy.
Do I look it?
You got to be super into sports for this. It's gonna be a lot of business of sports talk. I mean, ESPN and MLB part ways. We'll talk the Bengals talking about franchise tagging T. Higgins for a second time. I'm going to tell you why that is so stupid. Gino wants a contract extension, and Then we'll talk about streaming versus cable, because the NFL had their success with Netflix. The MLB's parting ways with ESPN. I'm sure a lot of these leagues are going to look to go streaming, and I'm going to tell you why. The NFL can do it. I don't know if other sports should be doing it, but we'll get into that. We'll talk about that. Jed York is selling part of the 49ers as well. We're going to talk about that also. But with that, dressed in some USA stuff, Super Patriot over here, Jesse Caulfield, is going to get us started.
Thanks.
With some hockey talk.
Thank you.
No problem.
I talked last week about Four Nations and what a success it was, blah, 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 blah. Very entertaining. This would have worked a little bit better if America
had won.
Could have pulled it off and won the whole thing. But, let's be real. That was an all-star game. So it's not I wanted to win. But, the Olympics is what matters next year in terms of international tournament.
Also, it took OT to beat us.
Yes. So, at least it was a great game, and that was great. So the NHL had that going for them. But again, it would have been better for this conversation, at least slightly. At least in my opinion. I had some thoughts of maybe the loss will propel people. We do have to beat those Canadians. I'm going to start skating for kids. Anyway, but whatever. But yeah. And I almost knocked out on the camera already. But yes, so the Four Nations happened, and the final was a rousing success. How successful was it? Well, I have some numbers. So 16.1 million people tuned in to the Four Nations final in North America. I do not have worldwide numbers. Nobody cares about worldwide numbers. I assume, people weren't really watching around the world for the most part. Probably awkward hour. Yeah, no. Not their teams. But yeah, 16.1 million in North America alone. That is 9.3 million in the United States, 6.8 million in Canada, and just some stats and facts about the viewership. To put it into perspective, it was the most non-NFL event ever watched on ESPN Plus. Speaking of streaming.
Okay.
It is the second most watched hockey game in North America in the last decade, with the one game ahead of it being actually Game 7 last year, Oilers-Panthers final, which was 16.3 million, so 0.2 million more people. An estimated 1 out of every 4 Canadians tuned in to watch that game. 1 out of 4 Canadians. The broadcast, this one was funny to me, so I put it in. The broadcast topped every U.S. cable telecast going from September 2024 until now, excluding NFL, college football, and election coverage. I found that funny, that they felt the need to put that fact out there. And of the 7 games for the Four Nations tournament, they averaged 6.5 million viewers across North America. That is up 256% from the 2016 World Cup of Hockey, whose jersey I am wearing right now. Go America. So that was great. The numbers were good. People were watching. But why do I assume from this stuff that the future of hockey is going to be dominated by Americans and more embraced by Americans and much more equally between the Americans and the Canadians, and eventually we will become dominant? Looking back, one of my favorite international tournaments, which ended in basically the same exact heartbreak, was the 2010 Olympics in Vancouver. Incredible tournament. And that Canadian team, my God, was it stacked. I'm going to read some of the players for you. Goalies, they had Roberto Luongo. Bruins fans, we know that guy. He was at the height of his game back then. Marc-Andre Fleury, legend, still plays actually. Third goalie was Martin Brodeur. some say the greatest goalie of all time. He was third on their list, on their depth chart. It was so good. I mean, he was the twilight of his career, but still, the team was so good. Carey Price was not even on the team. He won an MVP later as a goalie. And for defense, they had, Scott Niedermayer, Chris Pronger, Dan Boyle, Duncan Keith, Shea Weber, Brent Seabrook, and Drew Doughty, just to name a few. And that is some tough dudes. That is some strong SOBs. Forwards. I mean, they had a plethora of guys. Patrice Bergeron, Bruin, one of the best two-way forwards of his time. Jerome McGinley, you know him personally. Absolutely massive power forward. Don't want to mess with that guy. Patrick Marleau, great sniper. Jonathan Toews, another great two-way forward, probably the second best two-way forward of his time behind Patrice Bergeron. Ryan Getzlaf, great playmaking center. Rick Nash, another great power forward with a great ability to score. Corey Perry, certified dickhead. Jumbo Joe Thornton, Eric Stahl, Danny Heatley, 1507, baby. And of course, led by the man, Sidney Crosby. Playmaker, best player in the world at the time. And you know what? They took home gold, as they probably should have. That game also went to overtime, that gold medal game. But you know what? Since then, I mean, I know they won gold also in 2014 in Sochi, but that was a lot less interesting. But some guy made a post, and it's a joke. It's really funny, but it's kind of true. So from Have or Have Not on X posted the other day, every Canadian wanted to be the next Sidney Crosby growing up, and now there's no goalies in their entire country. I mean, who are the best goalies in the NHL today? Most people say Connor Hellebuck. He's American. Of the past decade, it's been Andrei Vasilevsky. Obviously, he's getting a little old. He's Russian. One of the, big names going around, Linus Ullmark. Swedish. How about Philip Gustafsson for the Wild? Swedish. Jake Ottinger. He's American. Dustin Wolf. American. Jeremy Swayman. American. John Gibson, I rave about him all the time. He does not get the love he deserves. He's American. Logan Thompson, he's Canadian, and he's actually the best goalie in Canada. And he wasn't even on the team because apparently he's an asshole and Bruce Cassidy doesn't like him, so they picked Binnington instead. Now, I'm not going to say Binnington is trash. He's a big game player. Streaky, but a very big game player. But
he played really good.
He played very good in the third period and overtime. Again, big game player. Not saying he's bad.
Yeah.
But, I listed how many goalies there. Those are like the top, not even 10. One Canadian. Like 5 Americans. And that was in no particular order. But generally, those are the best. Who are like the best defensemen in today's NHL? I mean, everyone says it's Cale Makar. I would debate that because he's, although probably the most talented defenseman, how well he plays defense, I don't think he's the best at actually playing defense, but he's, again, the most talented, so he's hailed as the best. Everyone says Quinn Hughes is the second best. He's American. Victor Hedman, again, the best defenseman of the last decade, Swedish. Roman Josi, again, one of the best defensemen of the last decade. He's Swiss. Miro Heiskanen, Finnish. Gustav Forsling, Swedish. Charlie McAvoy, American. Adam Fox, American. Devon Toews, Canadian. He's good. Rasmus Dahlin, Swedish. But then you got Jacob Slavin, Zach Werenski, Noah Hennepin. 3 more great Americans. And again, 2 Canadians in that list there. Who's the best forward? Well, it was Sidney Crosby. Every Canadian wanted to be Sidney Crosby. And what is Sidney Crosby? Well, he's a speedy, playmaking center with a good scoring touch, but most of his money is made in dishing out the puck. In 2013, Nathan MacKinnon was hailed as the next Sidney Crosby. He was taken first overall, just like Sidney Crosby, by the Colorado Avalanche. He is a speedy, playmaking center with a good scoring touch, but most of his money is made dishing out the puck. Now, people put too much pressure on Nathan. He was not quite Sidney Crosby. And, although he has reached his potential, MVP last year, he was not Sidney Crosby. And that was too much pressure to put on Nathan. But in 2015, we had Connor McDavid. He was called the next Sidney Crosby. He was taken first overall by the Edmonton Oilers. He is a speedy, playmaking center with a good scoring touch, but most of his money is made in dishing out the puck. In 2023, Connor Bedard was called the next Connor McDavid. He was taken first overall by the Chicago Blackhawks. He is a speedy, playmaking center with a good scoring touch, but most of his money is going to be made dishing out the puck. They are just making the same man again and again and again. And although they are the best, Connor McDavid is the best player in the NHL, taking the crown from Sidney Crosby. And I'm sure in a couple years' time, when Connor McDavid starts to get old himself, it'll be Connor Bedard's turn to take the crown. But America has the best goalies and the best goalie. And although we're not hailed as the best, we definitely have a plethora of great defensemen in all shapes and sizes. Defensive defensemen, offensive defensemen, the two-way defensemen. Some that are speedy, some that play with strength, some that can do both. And you know what else we have in America that's going to propel us to being number one in hockey?
What?
We have family. We have the Tkachuk brothers, and we have the Hughes brothers. So who are the Hughes brothers?
I thought you were just going to say money and investment in sports.
No, we have family, everybody. We're coming together. So who are the Hughes brothers? Well, Quinn Hughes, second best defenseman in the world, plays for the Vancouver Canucks. Jack Hughes, he was drafted first overall by the New Jersey Devils and was on that Team America. And then Luke Hughes, the youngest brother, also drafted by the New Jersey Devils and is currently a 21-year-old defenseman, fourth overall by the Devils. So those kids are going to be lighting up the league for a long time. Very exciting. Forwards and defensemen instead of all just playmaking centers, blah, 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 blah. But mostly the Tkachuk brothers. And as a Bruins fan, we're supposed to hate Matthew Tkachuk. But I have argued time and time again, if I'm starting a team, I'm starting with that guy, Matthew Tkachuk, not Connor McDavid, not Cale Makar, not even Connor Hellebuck, that American. I'm starting with Matthew Tkachuk because that man plays with all the heart. Yes, Brady and Matthew Tkachuk. So they are the sons of NHL tough guy Keith Tkachuk. They're both tough, gritty wingers, not centers, who aren't afraid to get their hands dirty and put up a bunch of points. Matthew Tkachuk, again, guy I'm starting with to start a team. Basically, as much as people want to say Connor McDavid, no. Matthew Tkachuk is the face of the NHL right now, an American. Why? Well, since leaving a Canadian team, the Calgary Flames, for a Florida-based team, everyone and their mother can talk about and can't stop watching Matthew Tkachuk, good or bad. Whether they complain about it or love him, he is the person everybody's talking about. And in the past two playoff runs, again, he has very much been the face of the NHL. He's the one that's doing all the media tours. He's the one that gets all the attention. 2 years ago, he was appearing on Inside the NBA, like for the Florida run. Not Connor McDavid, not even Sidney Crosby anymore, not Connor Bedard, Matthew Tkachuk going on Inside the NBA.
Why the hell was he on Inside the NBA?
Because no one cared about the NBA, and everyone was talking about the Florida Panthers who just beat the Bruins in their greatest season ever. He's been in a Hyundai commercial. He appeared on The Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon a few nights ago. Mm-hmm. And then both him and Brady were guests on the New Heights podcast with Jason and Travis Kelce yesterday, or 2 days ago, sorry. I don't see anyone else in the NHL getting that attention, going on these podcasts, getting any sort of media attention at that level. It's the Americans. It's Matthew Tkachuk with Brady right behind him. It's also good that he's very handsome and that Brady is very ugly because that, everyone feels included and everyone feels they can play regardless of how they look.
I think most hockey players are ugly.
They are because they get their face beats in so much. But Matthew is not. So, again, full spectrum there. And meanwhile, again, the best player in the world, Connor McDavid, he takes awkward photos at the airport with people. If you don't know what I'm talking about, just type in Connor McDavid airport. I guarantee it'll be the first thing. Go and laugh at that awkward photo. It's hella awkward. But who are other Americans? It's not just the Tkachuks. It's not just the Hughes. How about Jason Robertson of the Dallas Stars? an Asian American winger from California. Charlie McAvoy and Adam Fox grew up together in Staten Island, New York. Thatcher Demko, a goalie that was hailed as, going to be one of the next superstars. The Vancouver Canucks have messed that up a little bit, also from California. Jack Eichel grew up in North Chelmsford, Massachusetts, and was the second overall pick behind Connor McDavid. But only one of those two has a cup, and it's Jack Eichel. Austin Matthews, that's a big name. Toronto Maple Leafs from Arizona, grew up a Phoenix Coyotes fan. Yes. And now he's the guy that could score 60 goals, and the first to do so since Steven Stamkos did it in 2012. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I like those guys. How many Canadian guys are doing these exciting things? Some. Anyway, international tournaments. You want to prove you're the best, you got to do it internationally. And a great way to show what's the next generation to be is see what the young kids are doing. What's going on in the IIHF World Junior Championship? If you don't know what that is, that's the International Ice Hockey Federation World Junior Championships. It's an international ice hockey tournament for players under the age of 20, which has gone on every year since 1974. The U.S. did not win a medal in this tournament until 1986 when they got bronze. They did not get a silver until 1997. They never won gold until 2004. And they didn't win a gold again until 2010. Since then, 6 golds, 1 silver, 4 bronze.
Wow.
That includes 2 straight golds, and 3 of the last 5 have been United States golds.
Okay.
Yes. And the other 2 golds were Canadian.
Interesting.
So I'm not necessarily saying Canadians are just going to totally fall away.
Well, no. Obviously.
What else do they have? Nothing. Of course, they're still going to be there. But what else do we have as Americans? Less taxes. More interesting cities. And we make money better than they do. The last Stanley Cup winners have been for the Florida Panthers, Vegas Golden Knights, Colorado Avalanche, Tampa Bay Lightning. 3 Florida-based teams, a Vegas team, and then Colorado. 4 of those 5 have no income tax.
Yeah.
Who are the losers? Edmonton Oilers, Canada. Florida Panthers, Florida-based team. Tampa Bay Lightning, Florida-based team. Montreal Canadiens, Canadian-based team. We'll talk about that one in a second, though. Dallas Stars, no income tax. Of the last Canadian teams to make the Cup Finals, 2024 Edmonton Oilers. Well, that team had the 2 best players in the league on it, Leon Draisaitl and Connor McDavid. And the East was a hell of a lot better than the West. The West, the competition wasn't there. The Oilers had a great run. The Montreal Canadiens in 2021, that's a very weird one. And it's very weird because the NHL COVID time, they redid the divisions. You only played within division the entire year. There was a total Canadian division. No American team played a Canadian team until the Vegas Golden Knights played the Montreal Canadiens in the conference finals. A Canadian team was guaranteed to be top 4 no matter what. And Vegas was a very young team. Montreal was on a run they shouldn't have been on, but that happens in hockey. Very big outlier with Montreal being in the finals that year. And then 2011 Vancouver Canucks. They lost to the Bruins. That was a while ago. Things have changed in the NHL, including people being more conscious, which we've talked about many times across the sports spectrum, of the taxes and the city you are going to when you sign a contract. Toronto Maple Leafs still is the highest valued NHL franchise, $2.8 billion. Montreal Canadiens are 3rd, Edmonton Oilers are 7th. All 3 of them annually make a profit. And actually, Edmonton was the most profitable team last season. Very much helped with the Cup run.
Yeah, of course.
You're playing longer than everyone else. That really helps. Vancouver Canucks also usually turn a profit, although that actually does depend if they're good or bad. But they tend to turn a profit. However, in 2024, the only team that lost money in the entire NHL was actually the Coyotes. Only one. So things are trending up in the NHL. Everyone knows that they're making more and more money than they ever have, stuff like that. And the most profitable teams are still, yes, Toronto, but the Boston Bruins, both New York franchises, the Islanders and the Rangers, the Pittsburgh Penguins, the Los Angeles Kings, Chicago Blackhawks, Detroit Red Wings, and the Washington Capitals, dominated by American metropolitan franchises. Meanwhile, the Winnipeg Jets, Calgary Flames, and Ottawa Senators, although made money last year, tend to never make any money whatsoever. And then while we also have teams like the Dallas Stars, Carolina Hurricanes, and Nashville Predators who tend to not make money, Florida franchises as well, the trend is changing. If everyone except the Coyotes made money last year, they had to also. And again, more and more, they just are being the talk of the town. More success, more playoff appearances, and more money. Florida is always represented in the final. Tampa Bay or the Panthers, they always seem to be there right now. I bet the taxes have something to do with that. The Stars, recently represented in the final, and is actually a very stacked team right now. One of the favorites to maybe go to the final. The Storm Surge in Carolina. If you're a hockey fan, you know what I'm talking about. One of the most hottest post-game celebrations in the league. Smashville. Mm-hmm. They're hot. People want to actually play in Nashville right now, although it's not working out.
Are they the one building a downtown stadium in Nashville?
I don't believe.
Or is that the Titans who are doing that? Is Nashville?
I think the Titans are.
Oh wait, maybe the Predators already have one.
I mean, they have a stadium. It's pretty nice.
Is it in downtown though? I think it's near downtown.
It might be. I don't know. I haven't been there, dude.
No, I know, but I thought you might know just because you're a hockey fan. But I'll tell you that would be a big difference.
Maybe
because you're talking about an area that is blowing up in popularity.
Sure.
And then to have a downtown stadium right there, and the Titans suck.
Mm-hmm. But they are blowing up in popularity. They're making all kinds of moves. Mm-hmm. They just signed Steven Stamkos.
Well, I also just meant the city itself.
Well, yeah. But like the players want to play there.
Yeah.
And although it hasn't worked out this past offseason, they've made big moves for the past couple years, including in the front office as well. But players want to play there. NHL expansion. They've expanded twice in the past couple years, and although everyone was like, "You better not, you're so dumb, you don't do it," it's worked out actually very well. They expanded to the desert. They went to Vegas, and they were the first to do so in modern sports. And again, huge success actually. They won a cup. They've appeared twice already. And who doesn't actually like to watch a Vegas game, especially like the pregame is hype as all hell. The uniforms, people try to crap on them. They're sexy. I don't care. The gold, it's amazing. Seattle, although it has not quite fared as success on the ice, I mean, Seattle was begging for a team for a long time. And those uniforms and color scheme are 10 out of 10. So we'll give them a pass. Mm-hmm. Utah is embracing hockey more than Arizona ever did. Although I guess a little disappointing in the showing from the Utah Hockey Club this year, it's still better. The fans are showing up. People are hype. And there's still further expansion talk. Not in Canada at all. It's Houston, Atlanta, and Arizona again. No one cares about going back to Canada. No one cares about expanding or moving a team back to Canada. And then finally, what's the last reason that the future of hockey is American, regardless if the Canadians are still the best? Where did everybody come from? How do you make it in the NHL? Well, it used to be you would go and play for a Canadian Hockey League. You would go to the OHL if you were the best of the best, the Ontario Hockey League, or the QMJHL, the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League, or the WHL, the Western Hockey League. But, things have been changing. And I've said it. I've been pointing it out. But in 2023-2024 season, 65% of NHL players played at least 3 years of college hockey. That, even 10 years ago, would be an insane thought. Coming into this season, 242 players represent the NCAA, including 44 from Division I schools. 17 went to Boston College. Noah Hennepin, Matt Boldy. It could have been 18, but, Johnny Gaudreau was tragically killed this past summer. 17 from Boston University. That includes Charlie McAvoy of the Boston Bruins, that Brady Tkachuk fella I talked about, Jack Eichel, and just recent first overall pick, Macklin Celebrini. 15 from University of Minnesota, Nick Bukestad, Brock Faber, 2 Minnesota natives. 13 from Minnesota Duluth, former good American player, Justin Falk. 13 from North Dakota, like Jake Sanderson, who just had his coming out party in the Four Nations face-off. 12 from Northeastern, Zach Aston Reese, he's one of them, he's American. 12 from Wisconsin, including rising star on the Montreal Canadiens, Cole Caulfield. 11 from Denver, Jason Zucker, that's an American. 11 from Harvard. That includes Adam Fox, one of those rising stars. 10 from UMass. Everyone and their mother knew that Jonathan Quick went to UMass. 10 from St. Cloud State, like Nick Dowd. Remember Cale Makar? Best defenseman in the world. Canadian. Where did he learn to play hockey? UMass Amherst. UMass Amherst. Devon Toews, the other great Canadian.
So you're missing something here, though.
Quinnipiac.
You're missing a big piece of this now with the college thing.
Colton Parayko went to Alaskan Fairbanks.
If you're going to go to school and you want to learn hockey, right, you're going to come to America because you also can get paid in college to play.
I guess, but that's...
They're not going to pay people in Canada.
Now, listen, I'm never in no way going to say the NAL is a good thing. It's
Well, no,
not. It's a horrific thing.
Listen, you're talking, but don't get on the high horse here. We're just talking about why America is going to be better over the next couple of years and the future of hocky.
I don't care about the NAL.
You don't think that has anything to do with the rise in people playing college hockey?
No, because this has been going on. What did the NAL change? 2-3 years ago? 4 years ago?
3 years ago.
Okay.
I know it was already going in that direction. It was already going in that direction. You don't think it's going to make a difference?
I mean, maybe it will.
It's definitely going to make a difference. For places like UMass Amherst, who are never going to be good at any other sport, but can draw and make money from hockey because this area cares about hockey.
There's still none of these kids are even going to make $1 million.
Well, no, they're not.
Maybe 100,000, 200,000.
That's good money.
I guess these are Canadian and American kids. They come from rich families.
Some of them, most of them. Still, to make your own money and still get an education. Listen, you can play at a Canada college, or you can come play at an American one, and you can get paid at the American one.
These are also hockey players that don't care that much about that.
Right.
And again, if anything, that would ruin it.
Okay.
Because these kids will only start caring about money. They'll go to the college where they'll pay them the most. They're not going to learn hockey. And it'll become like the NFL. And the NBA, I guess, where like
I don't think
the talent is the highest it's ever been.
I think the NFL's problem is coaching. That's not.
Well, no,
that's different.
No, the fact that people care more about money is a huge part of it too.
But
like it's been talked about hugely for the past week about how like, oh, wow, the passion out of these hockey players is something that is unmatched from these other sports leagues right now. A lot of that's because like, well, they play for the game and not the money.
Yeah.
Like,
I never think the money is going to become an issue where like that, because I never think hockey is going to get that big.
I don't disagree that like the coaching is part of the reason that the NFL is sloppy now, but a huge reason is the fact that the talent is the highest it's ever been, and yet the play is as mediocre as it's ever been. Like people are clearly putting their priorities other places other than trying to be the best, honing your skills, that stuff.
Yeah. Well, I think the biggest thing for hockey, though, is just how can you reach the American people and the American audience past just the upper north reach. And they're starting to do that, which grows the talent pool that you can get from to then get some people to play hockey. And by there, I mean, we have a higher population than Canada. We invest more in sports than Canada does. So if you can just get more of the country involved in hockey, then you should get a greater talent pool eventually.
Austin Matthews.
Which is exactly what's going on.
Austin Matthews grew up an Arizona Coyotes fan, or a Phoenix Coyotes fan, because they were Phoenix back then. Like,
did he grow up in Arizona?
I mean, he was born in California and then moved to Arizona as a young kid.
Okay, so there's a guy.
Lived most of his life.
Okay, so there's a guy that has no business playing hockey.
And yet he is the best American.
And yet he is the best American now.
Yes.
So that's what I mean. Like, I feel like the number one thing is if you can just reach a larger demographic of America, a country with a higher population than Canada, and it financially invests more in sports than Canada does, that is the number one thing that's going to make us pass Canada and the future of hockey be American.
And also, you just showed side by side the passion from the players basically playing an all-star game compared to the NBA. And again, the NBA viewership is bad right now.
Yeah, it's way down.
And actually, the NHL's, which I'll actually talk about a little bit later when we talk about the ESPN MLB stuff, I'll mention the NHL, has actually been down this year. But I think the fact that the NBA is really putting a sour taste in everyone's mouth, and people are really getting sick of the players there. I think that is going to help the NHL as well.
Obviously,
Obviously,
for sure it's going to help.
like those are the ones in the direct competition. Like you don't have to don't even try to compete with the NFL. Don't try to take their viewership.
Yeah.
You will lose. And then you'll maybe piss them off, and then they'll start playing games on Christmas or something like that.
What they did to the NBA?
Yeah. You're not going to take the MLB's viewership. You're not competing. That's a summer game.
Yeah.
Like, you're not going to take their viewership. Don't try. But the NBA, that is your direct competition. You play side by side from beginning to end. And those people are fed up, are not happy with what they're watching, the people they're watching.
Yeah.
Take advantage.
Oh, I think the NHL totally is. For sure. And I think that All-Star thing definitely was helpful. Yeah. They're doing their best.
They're not very good at it.
I'm sure they'll get some new TV deals and stuff like that. But interesting thing there.
Yeah,
but yeah, it makes sense that the future of hockey would be American because, like I said, higher population. As long as we're successful here, we invest in sports a ton. Like, of course.
All right. That's the first half hour of the show.
I know, right? Jeez. But yeah, moving on though to some more NFL talk. So the Bengals are talking about, and it seems like it's going to happen, franchise tagging T. Higgins a second time. And this is moronic business. Like this is just a dumb business move. And this shows that, to me, it shows you're terribly owned because there's no reason to franchise tag a guy twice. If you're franchising a guy twice, so he's going to get paid $21 million last year when they franchise tagged him. He's going to get paid, I think, another $29 million for the second franchise tag. So you've basically guaranteed that you're paying this player $50 million, guaranteed. This is not, you can't manipulate cap or anything with a franchise tag. You have to pay them $21 million that season and $29 million when you franchise them again in cold cash, all of it on your salary cap books. If you're franchising a guy a second time, clearly that means you want him on your roster. So just make a deal already. What is it? Piss or get off the pot?
Yeah.
It's that.
Well, it's
because
the other word.
Yeah. Whatever.
The other one.
Yes. But so you have a franchise quarterback in Joe Burrow. You have been moving off defensive players, right? Your defense could not stop a nosebleed last season. Joe had a sensational, best statistical season of any quarterback in the league, and you couldn't make the playoffs because you literally couldn't stop anybody. And you were paying T. Higgins a $21 million cap hit. There was no fudging the numbers when you franchise tag. You probably could have used that on some defensive players, and maybe your defense would have been better and you wouldn't have to move off everybody the last 2 years. Because if you just make a deal, you can push the money down. You can do signing bonuses, you can do incentives, you can do all these other things that at least help your cap space. A.J. Brown gets paid more money on his contract than T. Higgins, but he is a smaller cap hit, a significantly smaller cap hit than T. Higgins is to the Bengals, and significantly smaller, obviously, than he will be next year. This is just moronic business by the Cincinnati Bengals, and this is exactly why I said when Joe Burrow made that Super Bowl against the Rams a couple of years ago, I don't think he's ever going to get back to one as long as he's in Cincinnati. It's poorly run. It's cheaply run. They don't know what they're doing. This makes no sense. You don't franchise tag players a second time. The only one who has done this was Dan Snyder and the Washington Redskins at the time when they franchise tagged Kirk Cousins a second time. That is not good company to be in. It's just moronic business, but it's more of the same from the Cincinnati Bengals at this point. Anyone have any thoughts?
I mean,
I'm not disagreeing with franchising a guy one time. You want to play out one more season. Maybe you want to see if he's truly worth an extension. There is no reason to do it a second time. You have wasted $50 million when you probably could have signed him to a 4-year deal worth about $100 million, and you could have been a way smaller cap hit. You could have pushed money down the road. Didn't have to guarantee all of it. You've basically guaranteed now half of what his actual extension would have been.
I'd like to think they have like some long-term plan. They're like, all right, we're not spending a whole bunch of money this year on the defense. So who cares if we spend money right here and now with T. Higgins? I'd hope there'd be something like that. But because they also did say like, oh, we have so much money to play with right now, if the owner is willing.
which they never are, but okay.
But you're also players don't like to be franchise tagged.
Yes, there is that too.
They really don't. And every time you do it, like if you want to, like, all right, we're going to franchise them the second time, and then next year we're going to talk long term. Like every time you do that, like the number gets bigger.
Yeah, oh yeah, because they're not. Yeah, because they're mad at you.
Yes. Yeah. And then you did it again.
It's just
and
poor business.
It was known that he wasn't happy last year about it, to the point where like we might have to trade him even with the franchise tag. I don't know how they feel in the camp this time. I can only imagine how they feel.
I know.
But like I said, I hope this because we've also heard their pass rusher there.
Which one? The Browns one?
No, the Bengals one.
Oh, Hendricks.
Hendricks.
Yeah.
He was disgruntled himself going into last season about his money. But I've heard nothing about them talking to him right now.
No.
Or any plan to like, well, we're not going to talk to you, but we're going to send you somewhere.
Yeah.
I've heard nothing. So like, I don't get it. I've heard only them talking about Jamar Chase and T. Higgins.
Yes.
Like, what are you going to do with the other side of the ball?
Well, they need to do a lot with it right now because it's god awful.
Not even talking about it.
Joe,
now, maybe they're going to draft.
And Joe
maybe
is
they think they
about
have some guys that they are targeting and they are confident they're going to get. Maybe. But like, give me some confidence. Like, hint at that, like, we have schemes here. We're not going to discuss with the media, particularly in the draft, because we don't want the other people knowing, but we have a plan. No, and it's just like, hey, we'd like to really do this. We're going to franchise this guy. And like, oh, we really want to make Jamar Chase the highest paid non-NFL or non-NFL or non-QB in the league, blah, 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 blah. It's like, great, I guess. Like, all right, you'll be putting up points again. You're going to win games 36-32 again?
Yeah, and not enough of them to make the playoffs.
Yeah.
In a division with, the Steelers and the Ravens. And
maybe they think, they're like, we're one win away. Heck, we're a kick away from making those playoffs. We don't need to change much.
Yeah, you're not going to win playoff games if your defense can't stop anybody.
They got hot at the right time, though. Maybe they
did.
Maybe they'd be the hot team going to the playoffs. And
No,
they could,
no. There's
ruffle
zero
some feathers.
There's zero chance of that. And Joe, and that's why Joe has been very active talking about this, because he's trying to pressure the Bengals and their ownership because he knows they're historically cheap. But there's one thing to be cheap, and then there's one thing for me to just be like, I don't think you have any clue what you're doing. And this is I don't think they have any clue what they're doing. And it's like, you clearly want T. Higgins in the building, but you don't want to pay the money. Dude, we got to make a decision on this already or not. Because like I said, you've now wasted nearly $50 million over the last 2 years, and you can clearly tell the rest of the roster has major deficiencies that maybe you could have invested some of that $50 million into. And if I was them, I wouldn't keep T. Higgins. I would trade him. But if you want to keep him, get a goddamn deal done, and let's manipulate the cap the way every other team can in this league, especially the well-run ones, and let's just stop trying to just push this can down the road. Because the more you tell me it's expensive, well, you wasted $50 million now over the last 2 years on one player when your cap hit could have been significantly lower. So it's just moronic business. The NFL is so interesting in the sense that, like, you can turn it around in the NFL faster than I feel like any other sport. But at the same time, if your ownership is bad, you are hopeless as a fan. It's this weird paradox where, like, you kind of always have hope because you can turn it around faster than anything else, but also it is the have and have not league partly because of a salary cap, right? When you try and even the playing field, what it really does is that the best rise to the top. Like in baseball, the Yankees haven't always made the best decisions, been the West well run, but they can throw money at their problems. So they stay ahead of most teams. You know what I mean? So the NFL is just bizarre like that. It's more ridiculous ownership. I don't know. Do you have any else that, or we're going to move on to the next thing?
I mean, I guess there's not too much to say about the Bengals. I mean, you kind of said it all. And I mean, I guess I would agree that, like, personally, if I was the Bengals, I would move to trade T. Higgins. Especially because, like, he's trying to be a little injury prone, but he still has. I mean, he still has a lot of people looking at him. and he still has a lot of high value. And maybe before he ruins that,
And you can find wide receiver.
yeah,
I'm not saying they're not valuable. They are, but you can find them. This is like the Travis Hunter thing. The idea that Travis Hunter should enter this draft as a wide receiver to me is ridiculous. And it sounds like he's going to do it as a corner because it's harder to find a shutdown corner than it is to find a productive wide receiver. They're all over the place, And I'm not trying to, T's really good. If he came to the Pats, I'd be like, oh, that's a great target for Drake May. But you can find him.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
Pats fans, I know this is wild to think about because we can never find them for some reason.
Well, Debo's apparently on the block.
Yes.
DK Metcalf is rumored to be available. Mm-hmm. They're out there.
Yeah.
I'm not saying the Bengals should go after any of those guys, but like the point is that like they're out there at many levels, established and in draft.
Mm-hmm. So the second thing,
although Debo's old,
yeah, he is.
He's no longer established.
No, but he'd probably be kind of cheap at this point. So the second thing here going on is Geno Smith has been asking to get extensions for the last 2 seasons now. The best story I heard was last year, and I'm drawing a blank on the GM's name. What's the GM's name?
Oh, don't ask me to remember GM's names.
But he's famous. He's good. He's done a great job. Anyway, that's
Bill
not the
Belichick.
Point. That's not the point. His agent asked him for an extension, and he hung up, which is hilarious, and that's the correct way to handle this. I'm not trying to be anti-Geno. It's a great story. He's been paid pretty well, but they're approaching ranges where they are trying to make it so he's getting paid $40 million or more. And under no circumstances, if I was a GM, can I be paying Geno Smith $40-something million? And I think everyone's always, I don't understand. Like there's tiers to this stuff. And I know you like being competitive and no one wants to be the Titans this year. Will Levis is just losing game hand over fist and you're awful and you're unwatchable. But like when everyone's like, well, if we don't give him the extension, what will we do? Like, I don't know. You'll figure it out.
John Schneider.
Thank you. You found Geno Smith already. And you traded Russell Wilson, and everyone was like, well, what are they going to do? Well, you found Geno, and he played productive. Like, you can find another one. Like, I'd be willing to talk about a deal. You want another 3-year deal? $25-30 million, per year? That's fine. Once we start getting to the 40 range, like, I just think it's funny. And everyone's like, what are you going to do? I'll figure it out. We figured it out once already. If we take a step back to take a step forward later on, that's fine. But like, if I pay him $40 million, first off, you feel like Seattle's already hit their ceiling with Geno anyway. Then throw in the fact that if you're going to give him an extension that's worth $40 million a year, I mean, come on. So I think it's crazy when people have, the Vikings had this conversation about Kirk for years and all that. It's just like, guys, we'll draft one. We'll draft 2 over the next 2 years, and maybe one of them pops. We'll go get a free agent. Aaron's available this offseason. Sam Darnold's available this offseason. The last 4 years, there's always some quarterback available. You can't tell me that Geno Smith is significantly better than most of the quarterbacks that have been on the free agent market over the last couple of seasons. Like
Joe Milton III.
Yeah, like what do we do without him? I don't really know yet, but I'm interested to see.
DK Metcalf for Joe Milton III.
No. They would never do that.
Jackson Smith and Jigba.
No. Absolutely not. You would not get that much for Joe Milton. But, I mean, if I was Schneider, I would ask about it.
About Joe Milton?
Yeah. All things are available
The third.
to me. This is part of why I say, what are you going to do? Wow. I'm interested to see what. It should be fun. It should be fun for me to get together with my people who I pay a good amount of money to figure out these problems and evaluate other teams' players around the league, because that's what every team does, and get together with my guys, my scouts, my college scouts, my NFL scouts, and we'll find something. I'm confident because we did it once already with you.
What do you think Aaron Rodgers is doing?
I don't know what Aaron's doing.
I'd rather pay. I know I kind of was like, oh, Aaron Rodgers last week, but like, I guess I'd kind of rather pay Aaron than Geno.
Well, yeah, especially with Aaron. At least Aaron's probably going to be a 1 or 2 year deal. Geno probably wants 3 or 4.
Who's another one? I mean,
Sam Darnold,
Daniel Jones is out there.
Daniel Jones.
That one's kind of a joke.
I know.
Like you should probably just stick with Geno at that point.
Not for $40 million. For $40 million,
You don't have.
I could pay Daniel 10, 15.
Yeah, because he's already making.
And Daniel is like, where is Daniel going to get a starting job? Not many places. So if I brought him into Seattle, I bet you they're going to pay him $15 million.
Giants could give him a starting job.
Yeah, they're not going to do that. Like I would pay Geno $45 million, or I would pay Daniel Jones 15.
The Jets.
Trevor Lawrence.
What?
Oh, Jets. I didn't.
Okay. I guess it does sound like Jags.
I didn't hear what you said. No, the Jets are one. They might. My guess is they're going to look to draft. I don't really know what they're going to do.
They should. Teams need to be more of like finding a guy to draft and then bringing in a guy like Jacoby Myers to coach him up.
Mm-hmm.
Coach him up.
Brissett.
Yeah, Jacoby. What did I say?
Jacoby Myers.
Yeah, Jacoby Brissett. Mm-hmm. Yes. Bring in wide receiver Jacoby Myers to coach him up.
Who once lateraled at the end of a tie ball game.
That's a future coach right there. Yes, Jacoby Brissett, the one that throws the ball. I do that all the time with NFL players.
I know.
The ones of times I called I've mixed up like the Devontaes, Adams and Smith.
It happens. I don't get this, man. It's so funny to me when it's like, well, what will we do if we don't sign him? Like, you found him already. Everybody thought Geno Smith's career was over. You resurrected it. Like, you can do it again.
The Seahawks or Geno? Or both?
No, not Geno. You know what Geno is at this point. Now, Geno can go play somewhere else.
Yeah, you can go find
and be successful.
Yeah.
Somewhat successful. We know
Geno
we know what the cap is.
He can go be Geno successful.
Yeah, you can go be Geno successful. But I'm talking about in Seattle and Schneider's like the idea that these mediocre players just have them like by the balls. It's like, why?
Well, I mean, the quarterback is the most important position in all of sports. That gives them a decent amount of leverage.
I know it does.
Out the gate. Daniel Jones's contract gives them all a lot of leverage because they're like, well, I'm better than that. Mm-hmm. I'm better than that.
And yes, but no one thinks that was universally laughed at by even people in the NFL when the Giants made that deal for Daniel.
Yes, but some people were laughing because oh, I'm getting paid too now. That looks like.
Yeah, that's true. But because with the Giants, it was like, well, if he goes to the open market, who the hell are you bidding against for that kind of money? Geno would probably have more suitors than Daniel Jones would have on the open market. But under no circumstances can I pay you $40 million. Like, at least with Miami, like, I get that you drafted Tua, so you invested in him from the start. The fan base loves him. You have seen how bad it was without him. Like, I wouldn't have paid him what they paid him, but I get it. And I also do think he might be a little bit better than Geno. With Kyler, I mean, the ceiling is 10 times higher than Geno's. So I'm not making this about every player, but I'm making it about guys who we all know are middle of the road, who literally we thought their careers were over a couple of years ago. And then because they have a little resurrection, all of a sudden I should be paid $40 million. Like, no. Under no circumstances.
Shouldn't pay Sam Darnold either.
No, I don't think Sam, the way the season ended, I don't think Sam's getting paid $40 million. I highly doubt it. And if you do, you're probably kind of stupid. But listen, quarterbacks are more available than they ever used to be. You can figure it out.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, is Russell Wilson? He's a free agent now, right?
He wouldn't come back to Seattle. I think that's a no.
He's just another of those middle quarterbacks.
That's what you mean.
You could play.
We're just talking about what's out there.
Yeah.
I would call the Pats about Joe Milton. I would talk to Sam Darnold. I would talk to Aaron Rodgers.
I'm sure Justin Fields is not like hugely coveted by the Steelers.
I would talk about Justin Fields with the Steelers for sure. I don't think there's a massive difference between Justin and Geno.
What do you think Tommy DeVito's doing? Hopefully selling insurance soon.
I mean, again, Geno's definitely better than Fields, but is he $25, $30 million better than Justin Fields?
No.
Probably not.
Justin Fields is looking for a home.
Yes.
Not a huge contract.
Yeah, he's not going to get a huge contract. He literally was a backup in the new place he went to.
Got to find a home first.
Yeah, exactly. So, all right. With that, let's take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk about what are the Vikings going to do next, and then ESPN, MLB, and all that kind of stuff. So stick with us, guys. And we are back here at Slow Your Roll. Moving on to another team. This one did make the playoffs, unlike Seattle, in a quarterback conundrum. Not as expensive as the Geno one, likely. But I do think the Vikings will probably move on from Sam Darnold. But, we never know. But I'm going to say I'm not exactly sure what they're going to do at quarterback. Now, I know most people just assume J.J. McCarthy is going to just be the starter. If as a betting man, I would probably say that's kind of right. But I don't think they're just sold on that. I do think they'll sniff around and see, because you got to be honest about this. So last season, you won double-digit games. You were in the running to be the number 1 overall seed. You have Justin Jefferson in the building still, Jordan Addison. You're not paying a ton of the guys on defense. A very high-level coaching staff. Are they going to be cool with just winning 9 games and missing the playoffs, or barely making the playoffs after the season that they just had? And, Stafford's out there. You could re-sign Darnold, who played well. Aaron's available. JJ didn't get a lot of reps because of the knee thing. So is he really ready to go right away? They already wanted to sit him before he even got hurt for a little while before they had him take over. And the other thing with JJ is when we talk about it, we forget, I feel like, that he was the 5th quarterback taken, even though he was still taken high, but he was about the 5th quarterback taken. He played on a team that, let's be honest, they didn't ask him to do a lot. His team was stacked. They once, in his final season, not even his first season starting, no, his final season at Michigan, they played on the road against Penn State, one of the better teams in their conference, and they didn't have JJ throw the ball a single time in the second half. And it was a close game, but they just said, we think we have a better chance to win just running the ball, controlling it, because we don't think Penn State can score. JJ, take a back seat. We don't need you to do anything. That's not how the NFL works. JJ's going to have to do a lot. He's going to have to do a lot more than he did at Michigan. These guys like Jaden Daniels, his defense sucked, and he played teams that were just as good at him all the time. He had to make big boy plays, big boy throws all the time, under duress, downfield, here, there, second option, third option. It was on him. JJ, there was never really a time where they were like, hey, this is an off day for our defense, or our opponent's more talented than us. We need you to throw the ball 40 times today. Got to make big boy throws down the field, pressure in your face, doesn't really matter. We need 35 points, buddy. Buckle up. That never happened to him at college. And I'm not saying that, maybe he's capable, maybe he's not. But, first year in the league, you just won a lot of games last year. You have most of the players back, so there's no reason for you to just be like, oh, this is a rebuilding year. They're having, I know they're concerned about, has he even put on enough weight yet since the second knee operation? He's pretty young. I don't think it's just set in stone that you just turn this over to JJ yet. I think they're going to sniff around. I would be majorly in on Matthew Stafford. I would be so on board. Matthew for 2 years. Let's give JJ more time, because this roster is awesome. The coaching staff is awesome. But we'll see what they play it. But we got to be honest about this. Unless Minnesota is totally cool with taking a massive step back, the things JJ was asked to do at college don't exactly translate well right away in the NFL to a team that wants to win. So,
I mean, I definitely think they should not. Unless you're going to sign Sam Darnold for pennies, you should be like, thanks, but no thanks.
I have no problem if they let Sam walk.
And it's also a little bit of I hope, listen, I'm sure they'd be like, all right, we don't want to take a big step back next year. Almost won the division, almost were first in the conference. But you got to be at least a little realistic. You played the Giants. There was the Texans. I know they made the playoffs, but you played the Jets, the Bears twice last year. The Colts were in there. The Jaguars were in there. Titans were in there. Cardinals were in there. Falcons. Not actually a hugely tough schedule.
No, it wasn't.
And when you played the Lions, the first game was close. The second game
was not.
If the schedule gets any harder,
Well, it will.
you'd think it will. Maybe they just get some luck. Maybe the Bears do not take any step forward with Ben Johnson. So you could still get those maybe 2 easy wins. But it was not a very hard path to the playoffs next year. And I hope they're at least realistic about that. And
Well, I'm not sitting here saying they're going to be unhappy if they don't win 12 games again or whatever it is that they won and compete for a number 1 seed.
But if it's 9-8,
are they going to be cool with 9-8 and missing the playoffs?
I don't know if they miss the playoffs, I'm sure they'll be like, oh. But like, if you still get into the playoffs with just 9 or 10 wins, like,
I think 10 wins they'd be happy with for sure.
That's more realistic of what you probably
you
actually are.
You probably think that maybe at least your competitor in your division is taking a step back too.
The Lions, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe. Perhaps. But I don't think you need to. Like, Matt Stafford might be rather expensive. And although I don't think they need to covet all their draft picks anymore, I still think they should hold on to a couple because you don't have a running back. Your defense, I think, was really, although good, and I like the personnel, a lot of that I think was Brian Flores. Yeah. And like, if he disappeared, I don't think that defense would. I mean, obviously, it wouldn't nearly be as good because like you don't have the mind of Brian Flores back there coaching him up. But like, I don't know. I think that's kind of questionable to me.
Okay.
So like, I don't think you need to sell your soul for a quick, another quick playoff appearance because like I don't know, Matt Stafford could probably help the kid, JJ. Maybe sitting in for at least the start of the season will help, but I don't know if a whole nother season on the bench would help JJ McCarthy all that much.
Okay.
And if you want him to be the future, which he should be the future, like if you bring in Matt Stafford, that's not you're not looking long term solution.
No, I don't think so either.
But
2 years, maybe.
But I guess you could say, well, Jordan Love sat for like what 4, maybe even 5 years. Like, that could only help JJ McCarthy. I don't know. Maybe not. It's just that like, I don't know. The Vikings in some ways should be in win now mode, but not so much to maybe spend big, possibly big on a Matt Stafford. I think JJ McCarthy could be fine. Maybe the weight thing is concerning.
Do you think Stafford would be that expensive though?
I think
financially he would be.
Well, yes.
I don't think he's
the draft capital.
I don't think the draft capital would be that crazy. Because I think everyone's still like, come on, guys. He is 36. Yes. We also know that you're trading him because clearly you guys can't get a deal done, so your leverage is a little bit gone.
But I think the league views him a little more like you do than I do.
No, I get that. But I still think, what do you think? I think it'd be a first-round pick, 1 first-round pick, and then a very late pick or a player.
If it's... Like if they want to take like Alexander, actually no, they don't have it. Who's their running back last year?
Who?
The Vikings.
Aaron Jones.
Oh yeah. Oh, you're not okay.
But they're gonna draft one. There's 1 million in this draft. There's like 12 to 14 draftable running backs in this draft.
I don't know. I'm really on the fence here with the Vikings because like this is a big decision.
Good.
This could I'm not saying make or break.
Who's their third wide receiver though? I'm trying to think.
I mean, you could argue it's Hawkinson.
Well, I meant wide out, though. I don't think they want to trade Hawkinson. I'm trying to think who their third guy is. But I'm sure he was productive.
Actually, didn't they draft a guy last year?
Yeah, I think they did, and I'm trying to think who it was. But anyway.
Well, I thought
But, like, you don't think you don't think you could trade 1 first-round pick? And, by the way, again, if it was this year's first-round pick, we already talked about this draft's not that good, so who the hell cares? You trade a first-round pick and maybe, like, a 6th and, like, your 3rd or 4th wide receiver.
I mean, mayhaps. I mean, I do like someone being there with JJ McCarthy. It doesn't need to be Matt Stafford.
But you insert Stafford into what is a tough division. We all acknowledge that. But he immediately becomes the best quarterback in the division. Jordan Love is talented.
Yeah.
He can be up and down. We know the limitations of Jared Goff.
At least how we ranked it. Him being old, maybe it'll start to the come down will start to come. Especially he has been playing in
Kevin O'Connell, similar offense to Sean McVay, so it's not like he has to. He fits right into a scheme that he'll at least understand.
And I know he'll go from dome to dome, but like, how will he fare in 2 games in Chicago, 2 games in Green Bay? If they play more outdoor games, will old man Stafford maybe break down a little faster? Maybe not. I mean, that's just a kind of a hypothetical. I don't blame Stafford for the loss against the Eagles in that snowstorm. He seemed to be okay. But, we're in an age where like we very much analyze dome, not dome, that type of stuff. Matt Stafford does bring me some questions that I don't know if the Vikings in their position should necessarily take on. I wouldn't be like, oh, you morons, if they did. You know what I'm saying? Because again, I kind of wanted an older guy for JJ McCarthy. Even if like they're like, you know what, come week 1, we actually think JJ's ready. Even just have an older man in the building. I love that for these younger guys. And I guess you're right. The draft is kind of this year. Yeah. What is it really worth? It's not a high pick, first round pick. I love draft capital.
I know you do. But and again, I'm not saying this is a desperate situation. Like if Geno's available, I don't think the Vikings should call on that. You might as well roll with JJ at this point. But I would sniff around with Aaron and Stafford.
I might like Geno better.
Why?
Still the veteran presence.
No, I know, but I meant not to start. Like at that point, I might as well just throw JJ out there and just let's see.
You treat it like Jacoby Brissett and Drake May. You are starting, and eventually we're gonna put in the kid.
Okay,
like
maybe.
Now I don't know how Geno would be because he's talking extension. He probably still thinks he's a guy that can do it.
You could just lie to him,
like Kirk Cousins.
Yeah, you pull the Kirk. I mean, it wasn't a complete lie. I mean, if Kirk had played better, he would have been the starter all year. But
yeah.
But yeah, you could lie to Geno. Like, oh, no, we're bringing you in here to be the starter, and behind closed doors, you're talking to your staff. Like, no, about week 7 probably, we're going to go to JJ.
Yeah, I mean.
You don't have to tell the underlings everything. Now, maybe it blows up your locker room, but I doubt it, though, because Geno wouldn't have a lot of equity in the building because he hadn't been there. So
yeah,
JJ would actually have more equity in the building. But
maybe. I don't know. How are they? Because I know like Kirk Cousins had a great relationship with the offense. Sam Darnold seemed to have developed a actually very good relationship with the offensive personnel. I know because he was injured, he couldn't quite be with the team as much, certainly practicing with the team. So I don't know what they're like. Obviously, they know him. Yeah, that's our guy. That's our future guy. But like, how has he developed his relationship off the field with Justin Jefferson yet? Hawkinson, Addison. I don't know. Because like those guys, they very much embraced their QBs the past few years. I'm not saying they're not embracing JJ. He's just not on the field with them. But I haven't seen them like hang out. Like I immediately saw Mac Jones hanging out with everybody.
Yeah. No, I get you. But I think the other thing is the Sam Darnold story just sucked all the oxygen out of the room. I don't think you heard about anything else.
Kinda, yeah.
Yeah. Because it was like, NFL's a very, very week-to-week league. Like, Sam was lighting it up, and JJ was in street clothes because he just had knee surgery. Like, he was out of sight, out of mind. So, yeah. All right. Moving on to some other news that's going on. This is what we're talking about when we got into the geeky stuff. So, they signed Debo. They signed Brandon Ayuk. They probably very much regret the Brandon Ayuk signing at this point. Got a lot of older players who are expensive. Trent Williams. Now they're going to sign Brock Purdy to a deal. That's what everyone has said. The Niners have said this. But comes out, and again, you have to be really paying attention for this because it's not headline news. But Jed York is going to sell a piece of the 49ers, which this is actually very typical. A lot of people do share parts of it to minority owners since the NFL allowed this to happen. Hasn't been that long. I don't know when the NFL allowed this. I think it was only 5 or 6 years ago. But he is going to sell, I think it's about 10% of the ownership from the Niners to some sort of private investment firm Whoever decides to buy it, doesn't matter. But what that does for you, let me explain why teams and owners do this. What that does for you is it gives you a cash influx of, I mean, what is 10% of $9.5 billion? I don't know. Some $200 million? Like it's a massive amount of money that you just get all at once as a cash influx. And what that allows you to do is to sign players to deals bigger than you could on your cap space because you give a ton of cash in the signing bonus. So this is why when people call organizations cheap, like the Bengals don't do this. Robert Kraft, by the way, is notorious for actually not spending a lot of cash money. That's why some people who know actually call him cheap. And everyone who wanted to crap on Belichick for years, saying that he was the cheapskate, it was actually kind of Kraft a little bit. I'm not saying Bill didn't love a value either, but Kraft was unwilling to give big signing cash bonuses. He just didn't want to spend the cash.
You saw what the Patriots facilities ranked.
Yes.
They went from 29th to 31st, I think it was.
Yeah.
They got worse.
Mm-hmm. So this is like when we call owners cheap, this is how some owners show their cheapness and others are go all for. Now, York, with the Niners, they're worth a lot of money. Have a coach in Kyle Shanahan you really like. Your GM has been pretty good, though he's had some whiffs over the last couple of years, but one of the better GMs in the league. You've fallen short of the Super Bowl twice, and they're in no position that they want to go through a rebuild. So he's going to sell 10% of the team to get that massive influx in cash. It's just something to watch, not just because of Brock Purdy, but also a Myles Garrett is out there. If the Raiders had moved on from Crosby, again, we're talking a massive cash influx that he's going to have, that he could sign somebody and everyone's going to sit there and be like, wait a minute, how the hell do they have the space for this? Well, it's because York's going to sell a piece of the team so we can sign massive signing bonuses. So,
did you hear apparently, allegedly, what he wants to do with that money?
Who, York?
Yeah.
No. I know part of it's going to be Brock Purdy.
Well, like the money he personally will get from selling ownership stake.
What, does he want to buy a yacht?
He wants to buy some stake in a soccer club.
Ah, interesting.
Weird. I mean, I know like these owners, they tend to like, oh, I want a piece of this team and I want to own part of that.
Trust me, he's going to use some of it in signing bonuses, though. I guarantee it.
I don't know why he's investing in soccer, though.
I don't know why either.
Do they think he's going to pick up?
I mean, maybe it has. I'm sure it's gotten better. I think there's a hard cap on what it'll ever be in America, but I'm sure listen, all sports for the most part have gotten to be worth more money.
Yeah.
Now, the NBA to me sometimes feels like it's fake money. Like, I'm like, where is this coming from? Because I know your viewership sucks, but you know.
From USAID.
Yeah, like that's what it feels like sometimes, isn't it? It's just printing money that just doesn't exist.
Well, China. Like actually China.
Yeah, that's true. I forgot about that.
They get a lot of China money.
I forgot about that. But yeah, it feels a little USAID-ish sometimes. But this is just something to watch. And I expect the Niners to be aggressive after a down year. They're going to use their picks, no doubt. But I don't think they're looking to go through a rebuild. And the fact that he wants to sell some money to get a massive cash influx, I think he's going to use a good amount of it, some of it, on signing bonuses. I imagine Brock Purdy's signing bonus is going to be pretty big in order to get that cap hit down.
Well,
Which solves some of the issues of what I've said why I wouldn't sign Brock to a deal, even though I want him there. But listen, if you can get his cap number down to under 40, if his cap hit's now going to be 35, 30, 28, I'm all on board.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's interesting because, like, you know, I read the headline. They're like, oh, he wants to invest in a soccer club. And, like, you see, like, the headlines of, like, oh, big owner starts to sell stake in team. Like, your first thought is, like, oh, they want out. They see the writing on the wall and they want out before it gets too bad and can't sell it. But selling to an investment firm, and was it only 10%, you said?
Yeah, it's only 10%.
Like, that's, to me, that's like what we all originally thought when the Fenway Sports Group was like, we're expanding. Investment firms, billionaires, all like, we're going to get money from everywhere. And it's we can get better facilities and all these other things. Like, and bringing in an investment firm and not just one other guy. Like, you're going to start being the guy. I'm going to slowly sell stake 10% to you. Tells me that, like, reinvestment will be into the club.
Yeah, exactly. And so it's just so when he gets signed to some massive deal and the number is big and everyone starts criticizing, how could they spend that much on Brock Purdy? Remember, I wouldn't be shocked if you dig a little deeper and find out a massive amount of it is in a just cash influx signing bonus, which again, then means it does not count against your cap. So this is why I like when Brian talks to us all the time, is he likes to be like, the cap's not real. It's real. People who are willing to get around it are capable of getting around it, but you have to be willing to get around it. And you'd be surprised how many billionaires, for some reason, are not willing to get around it. As I mentioned, Robert Kraft notoriously is one who is not. So,
hopefully the 49ers don't turn into Fenway Sports Group.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Just will collect.
I think he's pretty aggressive. I think that's part of why this is.
Generally, yes. I would hope so.
So, all right. Jesse,
Hello.
get us started now. The ESPN and MLB divorce.
Oh, no.
Oh, no. I don't think it's a big deal, but
I don't think it's a big deal, but ESPN wants to make you think it's a big deal.
of course they do.
So, just so I guess a little backstory about this drama. The MLB recently went to ESPN and said, listen, this deal sucks. We kind of want out. And ESPN was like, no, please, no. Like, what if we renegotiated with less money? And MLB was like, no, we kind of just want out. And so ESPN kind of called their bluff. Said, okay, get out. This is our last year. The contract was really supposed to go to 2028, but now this will be the last year of ESPN covering baseball games. Last year of Sunday Night Baseball. Thank God for that.
I know.
Sunday Night Baseball is trash now.
It is.
But why? What was MLB talking about? Why did they want out? Well, it seems everyone wants. People don't want to hang out with Disney anymore, and it seems MLB is kind of fed up with Disney and how little ESPN seems to care about baseball, despite the huge contracts. And
Despite the viewership's been up the last 2 years.
That too. They will not shut up about basketball and how, and yeah, the NBA, the WNBA, and no one is watching those things, but they won't stop talking about it. And I think that's a lot of where the MLB is like, just talk about us. Even like in the summer. And people have complained about this for well over a decade at this point, about how it could be the middle of summer. Only sport actually going on is baseball. And yet 99% of the coverage is training camps for football, which is fine to talk about, especially when it's first like, yo, everyone's showing up. That's exciting, blah, blah, blah.
And listen, it's not even close. It's the biggest cash cow in America.
It is.
Like we understand that they get special privileges.
It is, and it's okay to talk about it. No one is tuning into ESPN to be like, I need to know what's happening at Panthers camp.
Yeah.
No one cares. No one actually cares. People pay attention to their own camp on their own local medias. I'm not watching ESPN to watch a guy stand on the sideline at a camp for the Cowboys, talk about, oh, Dak Prescott looked good in his first throws. I don't care. Or ESPN in the middle of summer will talk about, well, what's LeBron doing? What's his legacy? Blah, 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 blah. They will not talk about baseball. And I think that's why the MLB is like, what's this? What are we paying for? What are we getting paid for? And then, so I have a quote here from, what's the name here? Boog Sciambi, the ESPN radio telecast for baseball. He had a quote. He was asked about it. He goes, this is a quote. I personally say this. I think the league probably needs ESPN a little bit more than vice versa. I think whatever you want to say about ESPN and how it's changed, and you don't like it as much as you used to, it's still the place that sports fans go to watch games. If you think about how the NHL was covered or not covered by ESPN when it wasn't on the network, I mean, it disappeared off the face of the planet. That quote could not be more wrong in every aspect. I do not think ESPN or the MLB needs ESPN more than ESPN needs the MLB, especially with how things have been going with the NBA and NHL. In fact, the NHL's viewership before the Four Nations this year was way down. Like, who am I gonna blame for that?
Yeah.
Probably ESPN, because when they were on NBC, despite the fact that, yes, they were not hugely talked about. It was not in everyone's face. Definitely had more viewership than you do now. I don't know how it is the week after the Four Nations. I assume they got a bump in viewership. It's not been good.
No.
It's not. And again, everyone complains about ESPN at this point. He's kind of right where it is still the place that sports fans go to watch games. For the most part, it is still the quote-unquote worldwide leader in sports. But, that is changing. And I think the MLB sees that. Whether it be because they want to embrace the streaming, which we'll talk about in a minute, or they just like, you know what? We don't want to do business with you. We'd rather get it somewhere else. Maybe TNT. They're apparently having trouble with the NBA.
No duh.
Maybe the MLB is like, well, hey, talk to us.
Yeah,
we'll party with you. We'll have some deals. Like, sports are expanding across multiple platforms now, and includes streaming. Netflix, they want in on sports. Amazon, Apple, all of them, they want in on sports. ESPN is not the end-all be-all anymore.
No.
NBC wants in with the MLB. Everyone wants to talk to the MLB right now. They don't need ESPN.
No. I don't think so either. It's funny because, ESPN and Fox to a certain extent, but Fox does a better job of satellite getting out coverage. Like they do have, there's little Fox stations all over the country and stuff. ESPN is very just LA, New York. Mm-hmm. They don't broadcast out a lot. They don't go everywhere. They're just all about the national. And if you look at national numbers when it comes to baseball, you're always going to be disappointed because that is the drawback. That is the problem with baseball. It's not football. People don't just turn on for, you don't live in Arizona and turn on because you want to watch, the Minnesota versus Detroit game. That's not really how baseball works. You kind of watch your local thing. People don't really watch the national. They'll watch the Dodgers or the Yankees a little bit because of the big brands. But other than that, they don't really turn on teams outside of their market. But baseball continues to be wildly successful in its market. Wherever that team is, people watch. Again, it's the only thing on. Obviously, people go to the games too, so that's extra money there. So when ESPN gets caught up, I think, in the national stuff, and they don't realize that, like, if you just satellite things out better, you'd be able to get your money because the local market does really well. And for whatever reason, ESPN does a poor job of that. Fox will get into the local markets and all these other things will. ESPN just does not. They expect everything to come to them. Mm-hmm. So that's the problem whenever people try to evaluate baseball. I laugh because they're like, well, Sunday night baseball was down. Or when Apple TV did the thing, it wasn't that good. I was like, yes, but go look at what the numbers is for people watching the Red Sox in Massachusetts or even people watching Twins games or the Orioles in Baltimore. Like they do massively well in their market. Mm-hmm. So, you just got to realize that when it comes to this stuff.
Well, it goes back to Disney. Mm-hmm. Like Disney owns ESPN and Fox for a long time was, local news, local networks, stuff like that. So when they bring in sports, it's like, well, we're kind of already everywhere. Mm-hmm. We can start just plastering it everywhere. Mm-hmm. Disney was kids movies. Mm-hmm. And they're like, we kind of do want to jump into this. We'll buy ESPN, the worldwide leader in sports. Mm-hmm. And we'll just, we'll be able to talk all of sports. But it was sports coverage. Mm-hmm. Obviously they have their national games for basketball, they had Sunday Night Baseball. ABC is also in on that, so there is some football in there. But it's big. It's a big network that was not, it's not splintered all across the country everywhere with all local channels, and you have like every state and stuff like that. It was this one big thing that they gobbled up. Yeah, but it hasn't adapted well to reaching everyone and getting into more broadcasting of the sport itself.
Yeah. No, I get you. The other thing that MLB has is MLB has its own network, which is actually very successful.
Yeah.
MLB Network does very well. And one of the best things that they do is when they do their, whatever their matinee game is or their night game or whatever, they do 3 different games. And whatever region you're in, you'll get the game closest to your damn region. Unlike ESPN, that's just like, oh, we want one national game and we're just going to bank on the whole nation's going to drop in for this.
Yeah.
MLB's like, no, we're going to cover 3 games. And if you're on the West Coast, you're going to get the Dodgers versus blah, 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 blah. If you're in the middle of the country, you'll get the Twins versus they might do a Southern one that's in the middle. The Twins are taking on the Astros. You'll get that game. You're on the East Coast. Well, the Sox are taking on the Orioles. You'll get that one. You know what I'm saying? Or the Yankees are playing whoever.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that's what they do. So, yeah, I think it's funny. I also think it was funny because ESPN, I felt like, tried to get ahead of it before MLB could and try to spin it as if they didn't want it. And the longer it's gone on, the more it's come out. It's like, no, MLB was more the one who was like, you know what, we're done.
Yeah. Well, I think the ESPN cut the ties to call their bluff and to try and screw them over a little bit.
Yeah.
Like MLB, yeah, they want it out, but they're like, I think a lot of people are still thinking like, well, 2028, we're going to have a whole bunch of new contracts. We're going to go in a total different direction. I think ESPN was trying to force them. You're not going to wait to 2028. You can't even wait to 2026. You need to get on this today. And then maybe they won't get the deal that they want, as much money as they want. Maybe the deal won't be as good. I think that was ESPN's petty angle.
Probably. But it's just, I know, it'd be interesting to see what happens. I also just think baseball's in a good spot right now. You have some of the biggest stars and the best players all in big markets, which can annoy me as a Sox fan and annoys me as someone who hates the Yankees. But from a just business perspective, it is better for the league and viewership that Shohei Ohtani is with the Dodgers and that Juan Soto remains in New York. Now he's with the Yankees last year. Now he's with the Mets, but he's in New York. Mookie's with the Dodgers. Like, you have the biggest stars in very good spots right now. So, and the other thing you have to remember too with baseball is baseball has the international market.
Yeah.
The NBA kind of doesn't. Now I know people play basketball in Europe, but the European leagues are very successful. I don't think people, like, if you put the NBA on a streaming service, right? Would the viewership from Europe be that amazing? I don't think so. I don't think it'd be as good as baseball's viewership would be.
In Europe?
Not in Europe, I meant, but like
Just
comparing
as
their
a whole.
markets.
Okay.
Asia would watch baseball way more than the Europeans would watch the NBA game.
Okay.
On average, in my opinion.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying? South America, Middle America, Central America, and Mexico will watch a baseball streamed game probably before an NBA game.
Definitely.
Right? So to me, MLB's got 2 places where if you were to put it on Netflix, and yes, people in other countries have Netflix, guys, not just Europe. They have them in Asia. They have them in other, like, people in those places. This is why I think, for years, everyone thought that football, that they're going to move the Jags to London. And maybe at one time, the NFL dabbled in that idea. But I think more of what they're trying to do with these international games is because they want to eventually make a deal with Netflix for Netflix to get games so they can get people in other countries to watch it internationally. But you got to go there first because football is not part of in Asia, it's already part of it. So if you give them games on streaming services, they're going to watch it.
Also, even the biggest market for NBA right now, China, would still rather watch baseball.
I know.
I know there's they don't have, Japan can watch specifically Ohtani or a couple of other big Japanese stars. China does not have that in the MLB. It's not like a star they can watch. But they still love baseball first and foremost. That is their sport. That's the sport they love.
I know. So, but yeah, this leads into our streaming versus cable, all that kind of stuff. I do think.
So just one last thing.
Okay.
It's still on the table that MLB and ESPN, they're talking.
Okay.
There still could be another deal. It's just that, I think MLB will look to make other deals first and then kind of go back, come on, ESPN. You're not going to not cover baseball, are you? And then probably will cave to something.
Yeah. And if they don't, I'm sure they'll be fine.
Oh, yeah.
Because
Yeah.
I guarantee they'll
Yeah.
go to TNT. Dude, TNT, I think I talked about this last year.
But we're gonna be
TNT lost a lot of money on the NBA.
Oh, I bet.
A lot. Now, I don't know if it's gotten a little bit better this year. I know they reworked their deal because they had lost so much money, so they're not paying the NBA as much. And then
Okay.
I do think the Luka the Lakers thing has helped dramatically.
Maybe no one's talking about it anymore
I
already.
don't know. Listen, at my bar, basically, before Luka went to the Lakers, unless the Celtics were on, I could get away with putting college basketball on and not having NBA games on. Since Luka got traded, I am getting asked more to put the NBA game on.
Okay. I'm
So-
just not really seeing it online.
Maybe it's
Other
not
than that first initial, Luka.
I'm not putting my stamping my foot saying absolute. I'm just saying from my personal experience,
Well-
I have seen a little bit more.
It couldn't have got any worse for them.
Yeah. But streaming versus cable, you know, the NBA, the NFL is going to do it. The NFL will be massively successful. You got to not compare yourself to the NBA. The rest of these leagues have to remember that. You know, MLB, we talked about how it'll get an international viewership. They do have to be careful because in America, if you put things behind a paywall, I'm not sure if the average person is going to pay for it just to watch a regular season MLB game. Even playoffs, they might not because that also is the start of football season. So if I was in charge of them, I would be like, well, do a deal with these streaming companies, but make it an international thing and make sure that the local can still watch the games no matter what. And, you know, do I want to make it so everyone in America has to pay that? Probably not. But I don't know. They'll get there. But I do think the rest of these leagues, they're going to watch what the NFL does with streaming, and they're going to be like, well, we can do that. And I think a lot of them are going to be in for a rude awakening when they realize if you're going to put your product behind a paywall, I don't know how many people are going to watch it. The NBA will definitely have that problem if they try and do that. I don't know a lot of people who are going to pay behind that paywall to watch some NBA regular season game because they're already not watching it on cable.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Maybe hockey has diehard enough fans that they will. You just won't get enough numbers. I don't know. But we got to be careful. Everyone wants to be like, oh, it's a brave new world. Cable is dead. Blah, 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 blah. And it's like, guys, just because Netflix had massive success with the NFL one, college is going to be able to do this too because football is far and away the second most profitable sport in this country now. They can do it. These other leagues, I think, are going to have to be a little careful about it. It's just a thought.
I mean, yeah, sure, maybe. I mean, I think the MLB is kind of just throwing a lot at the wall right now and seeing what hits, what sticks. Because, like, you know, it was $550 million they were going to get from ESPN this year. They have an Apple deal for $85 million this year for them to get a exclusive Friday night game.
Okay.
It's going to be a Friday night game on Apple. Obviously, there'll be other ways to watch other games, but Apple will have an exclusive Friday night game. And then Roku is paying $10 million for an exclusive Monday or Sunday morning game.
Okay.
So I think the MLB is looking to make a whole bunch of deals, a whole bunch of streaming services, and maybe cable networks as well, to, you know, which will end up adding up to probably more money they would make from ESPN
Maybe.
individually. And then they'll see, like, our Apple's really working. Roku's not. So we're not going to re-up the Roku one, but we're going to invest more in the Apple one. And they'll look at it like that. Like, well, we're just going to try everything because MLB feels they're in a good enough position where, like, they're willing to take some L's with some of these deals, especially if they're going to be as small as 10 million. That they're like, all right, well, we're just going to see how the streaming is working, what platforms are working, what are better than others, and we'll go from there in maybe 2028 or 2030.
Will they black out the game in the immediate market if it's on Apple TV or not?
I assume, yeah.
To me, that's dangerous.
Well, I mean, there were games last year where, like, I mean, it happens in the NHL too now, where, like, you know, NESN shows, what, like 85%? Maybe that's a little high for Red Sox and Bruins games. The vast majority are shown by them. If there's a streaming game, NESN doesn't have them. I can only watch on streaming. If the Bruins are exclusively on ESPN
Wait,
Plus.
really? I thought the only time NESN doesn't get a Sox game is if it's on ESPN.
No, there was Apple games
Okay,
last
and
year.
NESN couldn't cover it?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I remember there was at least one Yankee game last year. I was like, I want to watch this Red Sox Yankee game, and it's like, oh, it's on Apple TV, and I'm like, well, I guess I'm not watching this.
Oh, but you didn't watch it. So that's my
Yes.
point. Like, to me, they got to be real careful about.
Well, that's why I think they're trying all these things.
Okay.
We'll see you here. Like, I'm just off the top of my head, I would assume a Netflix would just be more successful streaming than an Apple TV because more people have Netflix than Apple TV.
Yeah, I think most people have Netflix at this point. If you want to put things on Netflix, I don't know if the paywall thing is as big a deal because I just think most of the population has it.
Yes.
The rest
It's gone
of them,
down because
good amount of people have Hulu, but the paywall will still be there for a good number of people. Apple TV, not a ton of people have. Roku, I don't even know how Roku works. Apparently, I have Roku just because I have a smart TV, but I don't think I pay for it. I don't know what's up with that one.
I think Roku's like you can get it free but limited, and then you can pay for more services in the Roku.
Okay.
I think it's like works like that.
I think YouTube TV does pretty well now.
Yeah.
I'm sure the NFL package
Which is bizarre.
big reason why.
All right.
The NFL package is a big reason why.
All right, yes, but at the same time, everyone and their mother still makes the joke of like, I'm never going to pay for Apple TV
No, I said
YouTube TV.
Oh, okay. I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, the fact that it exists means someone somewhere is.
Well, listen, most people who I know who have it rave about it, actually. They're like, it's actually great.
Huh.
Yeah, they're like, I pay way less.
YouTube is awful.
No, but YouTube TV.
YouTube is awful at everything it does, though.
I don't know.
YouTube hasn't done anything right.
They're
since
like, listen,
2011.
they're like, I care about sports and I get sports coverage and it's great. And
That's shocking.
I pay way less.
Like, as terrible as a company Apple is, they still at least like get something right once in a while. I have not seen YouTube ever get anything right. Never.
Well, they got the NFL thing right.
Maybe.
Again, it's hard to get it wrong. The NFL is just its own thing. But just saying. I'm just saying. I don't really have a Darwin this week. I might have to just end the show.
Maybe it could be ESPN.
I was thinking that.
For being like, no, we don't need the MLB.
Yeah, you know what? Let's do it. This week's Darwin Award winner is ESPN for having baseball bail on them and tried to get ahead of it and trying to make it seem like they bailed on them. But in the end, anyone who was paying attention, the more it all came out, the more it became obvious, kind of MLB went to them and was like, we want out.
I mean,
or at least you got to renegotiate.
Yeah, you're going to not cover America's second most popular sport and actually probably maybe the most
third most popular
in the world.
Oh, in the world. Okay, maybe in the world. In America, college football is far and away the second.
That is football. That is one sport, football.
Yeah, but
I'm talking.
They're separate entities. I get your point.
Not what I'm saying.
Okay.
Second most popular sport in America behind football is baseball, and you're not going to cover that.
Yeah.
Possibly the second most popular sport in the world behind soccer, and you're not going to cover that.
I know.
Come on, bro.
Come on. And you're going to do it for
you think I believe that you're going to save face
for your cash?
You broke up with them? Yeah, right, bro. They were talking about having an open relationship, and you couldn't do that. So you're like, we're breaking up, but in reality, you're crying about it, and you want like, come on, come back. Like you can screw that other guy. Like it's fine, please. You can have sex with Apple, but like, just please come home.
That's a good analogy for it. That's a very good analogy for it. It's also just funny because you're gonna bail. You're gonna have them bail on you, so you can continue to pump money into the thing that's viewership continues to decline year after year. I don't even think the NBA Finals did that well.
It did okay. The Celtics being in there very much helped.
It did, but I still thought people were like, these are not where I thought it was off of what they thought the projection was going to be.
Oh,
now,
maybe
still, I know
yeah.
Part of it was probably because very early on it was obvious that it was over, and then people didn't want to watch the Celtics win a ring because they hate the Celtics. So, but I know NBA playoff viewership was down overall. So in the end, in overall,
well, I mean, Giannis got eliminated immediately. The Golden State Warriors weren't all that hype. I think the Lakers. I mean, maybe they got to the second round.
They got to the second round.
Jokic got kicked out early. No one watches the Timberwolves.
No one watches them. So
I mean, the Knicks Knicks made it. I don't remember how far they got.
Yeah, in general, the NBA in all aspects is
He got
trending
nowhere.
down.
Jimmy Butler didn't even play.
Luka being in the Lakers helps, but like most of the stars are in the wrong place. Giannis is in Milwaukee. Jokic is in Denver. No one watches the Celtics except for people in the Northeast because everyone hates them.
Mm-hmm.
So, and the New York Knicks are still the New York Knicks. Now, I mean, they're better, but like they're not. No
Well,
one thinks they're winning and they don't have a star.
I saw a hilarious stat from the Knicks the other day. This
What?
has nothing to do with ESPN. It's that, like, the Knicks are, like, I think they're third in the East, and like consider, like, behind the Cavs and the Celtics. They're like 0-8 against the Cavs, Celtics, and whatever, like some great team in the West.
So they can be third in there, but with the way the NBA works, we know there's only ever like 3 teams that have a chance
they don't beat
to win a title, and we
beat the
know
teams.
the Knicks have 0 chance. So who cares?
Yeah.
But Darwin to ESPN for begging baseball to come back, even though baseball wants an open relationship.
Yeah.
Congratulations to ESPN. That has been it for Slow Your Roll this week. Have a great rest of your week, ladies and gentlemen.